welcome to the PILD Orientation Conference. Bob will start our first presentation. If you would share the screen so we can get started, Bob.
I just might be in town tomorrow, around about noon. Thank you kindly. Good night, gentlemen. Good night. Well, Jeffrey, I do believe you learn legal rights, boy. You see there, Elder? You can learn something from your brother. Now come on in here, let's get into bed.
Can I ask everyone to mute yourselves, please? And Bob, could you start with the second slide for me, please? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We want to welcome you to the 2020 PILD Conference Orientation. We're so glad that you were able to join us this afternoon. And we want to go, Bob, next slide. We want everyone to remember that our PILD conference will be April the 6th and the 7th. This year's theme is moving knowledge into solutions. And before we begin our orientation, a sincere thank you, big thank you go out to the 2020 Planning Committee for all of the work that you've done over this year, coming together, stepping up to the plate, being flexible, showing the true extension spirit. Thank you to all that were involved in the 2020 planning of this PILD. I would like to introduce the speakers for today. First speaker is myself, Karen Munden. I am your 2020 PILD chairperson. It has been a pleasure. The person under me was Bob excuse me, Bob, sorry, but I'm gonna do it right. Olin Sillin. Sorry, Bob. He is the executive director of JCEP. Next to him, we have Julie Robinson, which is the 2020 president of JCEP. Up at the corner, we have Terrence Wolfork. He is actually the co-chair for the 2021 PILD conference. And at the bottom, we have Lala Hoggins, who is the executive director from the Western Extension Directors Association. We are your presenters for today. Our agenda will be as followed. We have Bob will cover how the conference format will consist of. Then we have our president, Julie, will talk about the JCEP mission and the importance of our PILD conference. Lala will do a short overview of the agenda. Terrence will cover the information to prepare if you're going to talk to local legislators, state decision makers, and yours truly will talk about what to do during visits and after visits, and then Julie will close the conference with question and answering. This is one thing I want everyone that's on this line to know, that some of you are pros at visiting the legislators or your decision makers, but we want you guys to hang in here with us because we want to ensure that everyone starts on the same page. Another reason why we wanted everyone to be a part of this, it could be just like if you are seeing a movie and you've seen it before, but there might be something that you didn't catch the first time. So those pros that's on this line, we want you to increase your ability to connecting with legislators and local decision makers. Those that are new, we want you just to hang tight and learn something new so we can all learn together. So we're going to start off with Bob.
The tool that we're going to use to present the conference will be Zoom, and we're actually going to be using two different platforms of Zoom. The first platform will be the webinar platform, and the second platform will be the Zoom meeting platform. Beginning on Monday morning when the conference starts, we will start out with Zoom webinar, and we'll have panels where our panelists will be available to interact and speak to you. As participants, you will not be able to interact through audio, but you will be able to utilize the chat function and be able to get questions answered that way. So the reason that we're using two platforms is on the second day, on Tuesday, we'll start off with the webinar platform, and then we'll transition back into Zoom meetings. And the reason for that is because in Zoom meetings, we are able to have rooms. And so you all remember that you signed up for various breakout sessions. And so at the end of the webinar, you'll be able to link into the appropriate room where your webinar or your breakout session will be. So hopefully you all remembered that. We were going to try to put people automatically into those rooms, but there's just too few people that actually followed the directions and identified the breakout sessions that you wanted to go into. So I would encourage you to look over those early, before the webinar. And sometime midweek, I'll have that up on the website, the JCEP website, which is the next thing that I wanted to talk about. As far as where you can find information about PILD and stay in contact, the JCEP website will be the source. And I've got some information that needs to be changed and cleaned up a little bit, and that will be coming up in the next day or two. So starting Wednesday should be pretty much everything there, including the schedule, of course, is already up, but the speaker bios will be there, and any other pertinent information. And I will also send out again another email to you all so that you know the connection information for the webinars, and I probably will send just in case send a link for you to be able to get to the breakout sessions as well. So, and also we have one of our committee members that is posting information on the PILD Facebook page and also on the Twitter page. So if you're connected with Facebook or Twitter, keep an eye out on those as well. That's all I have. Again, I'll be sending you information with instructions. Julie?
All right, thank you, Bob. So I'm Julie Robinson, and I am the 2020 Joint Council of Extension Professionals President. And so as Karen said earlier, for those of you who are familiar with the JCEP introduction, please sit tight. But for those of you that aren't familiar, we talk about the term JCEP a lot. And so that is what it stands for, Joint Council of Extension Professionals. So together, the JCEP member organizations represent a collective 10,000 plus extension professionals from across the country. And our structure really provides a network for our various disciplines across the country, provides professional development opportunities, and it also provides us a seat at the table at the national level. And it also provides national leadership opportunities for our members. So if any of you are a member of these 7 organizations at your state and therefore national level, then you are a part of JCEP, and you're part of that 10,000 strong that has a voice across the country. So that's ANREP, the Association of Natural Resource Extension Professionals, NACAA, National Association of County Ag Agents, NEAFCS, which is our Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Professionals, NAEPSDP, which is my home organization, and we're the Program and Staff Development Professionals, the NACDEP group, which are our Community Development Extension Professionals, our NAE 4HA or NAE 4HYDP, and ESP, which is Epsilon Sigma Phi. And so we also have liaisons that serve on the JSEP board with us, and those are a NIFA USDA liaison, an ECOP liaison, and an APLU liaison. So we have a voice reporting to us what's going on at that national level, and then we also have a conduit to share with them our needs, our concerns, our current issues, and they're able to take those to those national leaders. So it really provides, like I said, that national voice. And so the people who make up the JSEP board are each member organization's national president-elect, current president, and past president. So therefore we've got 21 members of the JSEP board from those member organizations, then plus our liaisons, and of course our executive director, Bob Olin-Salem. And so Bob, let's go to the next slide. So part of what JSEP provides is that professional development that I mentioned. And so two ways that we do that is through the Extension Leadership Conference sponsored by JSEP, and then of course PILD, so Public Issues Leadership Development Conference, which is the orientation that you're on today, sponsored by JSEP. And so this provides methods to share state program success with those national leaders and decision makers, typically in DC. So we go through a couple of days of some professional development and learning how to showing how to demonstrate your impact to those national decision makers. And you get to hear that through concurrent sessions, and then you also get to learn about what's going on at the national level and understand a little bit more about the structure through our speakers. And so the great way that Karen and her team, who I really want to thank Karen for her leadership in this, are still going to be able to provide you with those skills so that whenever you are able to interact with those state or national policymakers, decision makers, legislators, whether it be in a virtual setting like this or face-to-face, eventually, you'll still be able to tell that extension story and show that impact of what you're doing in your extension program in your state, and then extension, of course, across the country. So I really would encourage you to embrace. We are kind of the first. A lot of conferences are going to a virtual setting, and you are providing leadership just by participating in this virtual conference. We're I think one of the first extension groups that is going to be launching into this virtual conference realm. And so, like I said, you're already providing leadership just by participating. So just would say congratulations on your leadership, whether virtual or face-to-face, but we appreciate you going along on this ride with us as we convert everything from face-to-face to virtual.
So our conference will begin on Monday, April the 6th, and all the times that we're talking about, we are referring to the Eastern Standard Time. So you have to make adjustments for the Central, the Mountain, and Pacific time. We ask that you start getting on Zoom, Zoom Web at 9:45. So get on early, so if we have any glitches, we'll be able to respond to them before 10 o'clock. Julie and I there will be a welcome by Julie and I. And then we have a dynamic speaker, Dr. Jermaine Davids. His topic will be influencing up down across the organization. And just to give you an idea, Dr. Davis is an international communicator and leadership speaker. He's also been a bestseller of 10 books. So he's here, and remember, is not, when he said influencing, he meant educating, not advocating. So the information that he's going to provide us is going to help us think outside of the box of what we're so accustomed to doing in our extension world, to be able to educate those decision makers and to actually show them what impacts we have across the United States. So make sure you sign on early between 9:45 and 10. And we look forward to starting our day off on Monday, April the 6th. Next, we're going to hear from Lala.
Hi, everybody. This is Lila Hoagland. Let me step you through some of the rest of the agenda. There was a question in the chat box about whether we're talking about Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time. Let me make sure everybody knows it's Eastern Time that we're on right now, and I think that's daylight time. And someone else commented that that's 6:45 a.m. for me, and you know what? That's 6:45 a.m. for me too. So we really worked hard to try to adjust the schedule for all of PILD to try to accommodate as many time zones as we could. And so that means when we start out basically with the program at 7 o'clock, that will be, at 10 o'clock, that will be 7 o'clock for those of us who are in the Pacific time zone. For those of you who are in Alaska, Hawaii, and beyond in the Pacific, it'll be earlier than that. And so we're doing our best to try to arrange it so that it makes sense for everybody across the nation. So please bear with us with that. On the 6th, after the keynote presentation that Karen talked about, we're going to go into 2 panel presentations. This first panel will be a panel that focuses on the kinds of messages that you should be including in your extension story. In other words, what kinds of things should you talk about when you talk to members of Congress or your state legislators or your county commissioners or your local city officials or whomever you're talking with? What kinds of things should you incorporate into your message? So that's really what this particular panel will focus on. Terrence will be the panel, will introduce the panel moderator, Chuck Ross, who is an extension director in the Northeast region, will be, and he is also the ECOP chair-elect. He will moderate this panel. Mark Lattimore is the current ECOP chair from Fort Valley State University. He will be on the panel as a panelist. John Boren, who is the chair of the ECOP Budget and Legislative Committee. He's the extension director from New Mexico State University. Faith Peppers will be on the committee. She's from the University of Georgia. Faith has been involved in the PILD program now for a number of years, so many of you may know her or may know of her. And then Jennifer Sarangelo, the president and CEO of National 4-H Council, will also be a member of this panel. So they will bring very different perspectives, which is why we created the panel the way we did, in terms of giving you ideas of the kinds of things that you ought to consider when you are when you're thinking about putting together your message about extension and how to tell your extension story. Then at 12:15, again, Eastern Daylight Time, we will have a break for lunch. For those of you on the West Coast, that'll be a break for breakfast for you. So whatever it is you'd like to have, we're going to have a break at that point in time. So Bob, let's go to the next slide. This will then will resume at 1:30 Eastern Daylight Time, and we will have a second panel that will kind of follow up on the first panel. This panel in particular will focus on how to most effectively deliver the message. So remember, the first panel we talked about is going to talk about the kinds of things you should include in your message. This panel then will talk about how to deliver that message most effectively. What kinds of things work, what kinds of things don't work so well, and so on. So Mike Knutz from Oregon State University will introduce the panel moderator. This panel will be moderated by Dr. Doug Steele, who is the Vice President for Food, Ag, and Natural Resources at the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities. Doug has been an extension director in a couple of different states across the nation. He's now working for us at APLU. So he will be a very good panel moderator for this group. The panel members will include Dr. Scott Engel, who is the director of USDA NIFA, Vernie Hubert, who is a member of Cornerstone Government Affairs. Cornerstone Government Affairs is the group that we hire to lobby on our behalf. So he's very actively engaged in lobbying kinds of efforts and has seen a lot of lobbying. And so he will be able to give us some good insight. Karan Gala also will be a part of this panel. Karan is a part of APLU's Government Affairs Office. And so she herself has had, I believe, at least 12 years of experience in this field, in the lobbying field. So she'll be able to give us some good insights as well. And then Brickley Miller, who is a county commissioner and a director of the Mississippi State University Horse Park, will be on the panel. And we specifically asked Brickley to be a part of the panel so that we had the perspective of a local decision maker, so she can begin to share with you some of the things that she's seen people use on her, if you will, that work, some of the things she likes, some of the things that she thinks just simply doesn't work. And so I'm really excited about this panel. I think it's going to be a very powerful panel, and I think it'll be a real good opportunity to follow up from the first panel that focuses on what's your message, with this panel that focuses on how do you deliver that message most effectively. So with that, Bob, let's go to the next slide. Then after the panel, those two panels are over, we are inviting some of our NIFA colleagues, and NIFA, as you might recall, stands for the National Institute for Food and Agriculture. That is our federal agency in Washington, D.C. It's a part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Julie will introduce our speaker, and we'll start out that session hearing from Dr. Scott Engel, the director of NIFA. As many of you may know, NIFA has undergone a number of changes over this last year. They have totally physically relocated from Washington, D.C. There's still a few people in Washington, D.C., but very few. They have relocated to Kansas City, Missouri. So we are asking Dr. Engel to talk with us about the new NIFA, how the agency is sort of rebuilding itself, how he envisions the future of the agency, and some of those kinds of things. So it'll be a good opportunity to get an update from Dr. Engel and some insights into how to better work with the agency as we move forward to the future. Then we're going to have a very short, what we're just simply calling a stretch break before we go into the next panel. So Bob, let's go to the next slide. The next panel then will include the 6 people who have recently been appointed to a very new role at NIFA called the Science Liaison, a National Science Liaison. This is, again, a brand new role. We've not had it before, and so they are learning as well as we are learning about how to best interact with them. But these 6 people in particular will in fact remain in Washington, D.C. to represent us there, to help create partnerships for us there in order to advance the extension program across the country. That panel will be introduced by Julie Robinson. The moderator of the panel will be Bill Hoffman. Bill is the Chief of Staff for USDA NIFA.
If I back up, it'd be easier for you to turn that thing around.
I'm sorry?
Sure.
Please mute
Okay.
Microphones.
Oh, we got somebody who has a microphone on. Sorry, I thought we were trying to ask a question. At any rate, it'll be interesting for us to learn about these people and what they perceive their roles to be in the future, and perhaps for them to hear from us, primarily again through the chat box. It'll be an opportunity for them to hear from us about what kinds of things we need or we might need from them. So you might be thinking about that as well. You can see the 6 people here. You can see the areas that they each cover. Now, in the past, what we've done is we've provided an opportunity after this for people to meet individually with these folks. Because of this change in format, we're not going to provide that. We simply don't have the time to provide that opportunity. So this will be a good chance for you to just simply get an introduction to who these people are, what it is they do, or what they are perceiving their role to be in the future, and how that relates to extension. Let's go to the next slide. On this slide, or on this day, okay, so we've changed days now. Now we're on to Tuesday, April 7th. And we will connect at the same time, have that 15-minute opportunity for you to get connected. And then at 10 o'clock Eastern time, we will start the presentation for this day. Now, we've had to do a lot of changes with the PILD program in order to just make it work best for everyone through this new format. So what we've done is we've made a decision to go right in on the first presenter on Tuesday will be our cap note presentation. Typically, the cap note presentation wouldn't be until after everything else is done. But this is the best way we could figure out, since we need to change formats from the webinar format to the meetings format when you go into your individual breakout sessions. So Tuesday morning, once we get connected and get everybody oriented again and set, then we're going to go into a cap note presentation by Dr. Marshall Stewart. Now, many of you know Marshall. He is also a long-time participant in PILD. And for those of you who have attended PILD a number of years, you might have heard Marshall speak in former years. It's been some time since we've had him speak, but you may have heard him speak before. We're really asking him to focus on, what's happening today in this environment, and how can we be most effective carriers, if you will, of the extension message. So we'll have our keynote presentation, and then go into some time for evaluation, because we really do want to have your feedback, not only on the program itself this year, but also on this new format. How is this working for you? In the future, for example, we might consider some kind of a joint format, jointly, face-to-face and electronic. I don't know, but this is an opportunity for us to test this out. So we'd really like to have your feedback once the webinar is over. At that point, then, we will move into breakout sessions, and there will be a number of those. Bob, so if you go to the next slide, please.
Okay, on the breakout sessions, this is where we will go back to the Zoom meeting format, which allows us to have the breakout rooms, and either at the end of the webinar, hopefully we'll be able to set it up so that you can select the one that you have chosen and link directly to that. But my intent is also to send out some registration information for you prior to the conference. My intent is to have that all out sometime Friday. We still have some practice sessions to do, and there are a number of things to put together before I'm able to do that. So I will get that out to you, but those are the breakout sessions that are there. There's a session for the extension directors and administrators where they're going to discuss the budget and legislative issues that are facing extension. And then the 6 breakout sessions that were people submitted proposals for, and the committee selected 6 to give their presentations. And at the end of that, when your presentation that you are in is over, you just simply need to close out. There's nothing after that. So at any rate, that's what we've got planned, and hopefully that will work smoothly, and we'll try to get you as much instruction and information ahead of time so that it will be hopefully a seamless and low-level frustration process in getting from the webinar to the meeting. Okay. Karen, I believe that's yours again.
Is Terrence on the line? Terrence isn't on the line? Okay, I'll go ahead and cover it. We wanted to make sure, even though that there's some of these things that we were going to do in Washington, but you're going to learn some newfound information, and we don't want it to go to waste. So we want you to be able to go ahead and use this. So when you're thinking about your local legislators and your local decision makers, what things that you should be doing, and before you even do go out, you need to get the advice from your university, your director, as well as your county administrator first. And because sometimes they may be talking to the same individuals, and you don't want 2 people going to the same individual. If you go, you should go as a group. Also, they may have information that they want you to take with them. When you're making appointments, make sure you have about 2 to 3 weeks out. A lot of legislators, as well as decision makers, their calendars fill quickly, and you may be only able to get 15 minutes or half an hour. So make sure that you give enough lead time for the appointment. As well as always remember, when we're talking to decision makers, we're trying to educate them, not to advocate. We are unable to advocate. So our mission is to educate, to ensure that they know the positive impact that cooperative extension have in the local county, the local city, and state. Bob, can you move to the next one? So what are some things that you need to take with you? And we always say less is better. If you do have any materials, you may want to put it in a bullet package versus a statement. A lot of people able to see things quickly more as a bullet form. Also, you may want to include impact statements if you have any available for your area, so they could be able to read some of the impact that your program is having. So make sure that the information is relevant. So some of the things that you may want to do before contacting your decision makers or your legislators, knowing what their interests are. The best thing to do is to try to connect the dots for them. Connect what you're doing in your county or your state to what they're interested in. So make sure that the materials are relevant when you go. Next slide. Okay, preparing for the meeting. As I was stating, make sure you do your homework. One of the things that we do a lot in Extension, if you have not already, would be to develop your elevator speech, your elevator introduction, to be able to say what you need to say and catch your attention in 30 seconds or less versus rambling on. As Extension educators and agents out there, I know that we are very good ramblers, especially when we are very passionate about the work that you do. So with the elevator speech, just think that you're in the, imagine that you're in an elevator. You have 30 seconds to just let them know what you do, and then you're out. So make sure you practice that prior to going. Next slide, please. So during the meeting, introduce yourself, be comfortable. The best thing to do is to do a mock. If this would be your first time going to see a decision maker or a legislator, do a mock interview with someone in your office or a different coworker. So you know that you're comfortable. You know that it's not canned. You know that it's passionate, that they can see how passionate you are to be able to tell your story versus reading off something. So be passionate. Make sure that you have enough time to tell your story. Stay on the topic. When this information that we're going to be learning this year, how to influence our up, down, and across, this would be a good time to start writing down some notes. Also, make sure that you leave time for question and answering. And the best thing is to ask for permission to take photos. And photos, put it on your website, put it on all social media that you had an opportunity to meet the individual, as well as take your business card and then tell them how you're going to follow up with them if there are questions that you were not able to answer during the meeting. Next slide. So important things. If you can, I know some of us are accustomed to wearing jeans and t-shirts, maybe in your workplace when you're going out to see the farmers or what have you. You need to know the audience that you are going to be speaking to. So if you're going to a legislator or you're going to a decision maker, you may want to have your attire to be as if you were going to work in their location. Number one, please avoiding wearing clothing that have political messages or other messages on there. Gentlemen, if you can wear a jacket. If you can't, wear at least a shirt that has a button-down collar. Please don't go in to meet one of them with just a regular t-shirt on. Always think about your people that you are talking with, and you want to be at that level. Make sure, again, bring your business cards. I don't know, in some of your cities and some of your areas, you might have to go through a security gate. I know in my area, in order to get into some buildings, you do have to have security. So gentlemen, if you are accustomed to have a pocket knife in your pocket, please remove them. Ladies, if you are accustomed to having nail files and clips and little scissors in your purses, please go through your personal items before going through a security gate. The worst thing that can happen, you've walked about 4 or 5 blocks and then you have to be turned around, or they take your precious pocket knife or your precious tools. So remember to check yourself before you go. Next slide, please. Oops, one more, go back one. Okay, when you return home, please send a thank you email. A lot of times, I'm kind of old school and I like to see letters or thank you cards. They may or they may not see them, but you know, always follow up with a email. But if you like me, send a little card, they may get them. One of the things that I did when my first time going to PILD, I came back and I got a booklet from my state capitol, and it actually had their birth dates, all the legislators' birthdays in there. So one of the things that I did was I would send them a little note saying happy birthday from Virginia Cooperative Extension, and that's all I did. That's as a reminder that it was Cooperative Extension, but nothing other than that. So you might even see if you have that in your particular state. Also, if there are some questions asked during your meeting, please don't make up anything. Please, just let them know that you are unaware of the answer and you will follow up with the information. So as soon as you get home, that should be your number one task of following up with the information with them. Also, the very best thing that you can do is invite your decision makers to an event. I know in my area, we always invite the mayor. We're inviting our congresswoman to some of our events so they can experience what we are so passionate about. So please invite them to some of your events and programs. And as I stated, I communicated with individuals through their birthday throughout the year. Julie?
All right, thank you, Karen. So now we want to open up the floor to anyone who has any questions, and I'm going to kind of monitor those, and I'm going to toss those to Karen, Bob, or Lila. And so the first one that we've got, it came in a little bit earlier, and that's fine. Some of these we might want to just kind of reinforce and answer the question. So will the links to our sessions be posted on the webpage, Bob, in case they get disconnected or get lost?
Yeah, I think we better do that.
Okay. All right. Another question is, will the conference sessions be recorded in case any of our folks, especially those that live in rural areas, get kicked off of their internet?
That's my intent, is to try to record them if we're able to do that.
Okay. Another question is, given the virtual nature of the conference, and most folks are not actually meeting with their elected officials, are decision makers in the organization scheduling virtual meetings? Are best practices different for virtual decision maker engagement? And assuming so, what are they? So this is kind of Bob/Karen.
Okay, that's a very good question. I know from time to time you can go to your county or city website to see if they have open forum, if they have agendas. So my suggestion right now, because we're doing, this is all new for everyone, the best thing to do is to, if you can, find your city or your county's website, and they will list public meetings, and they also should have a link. Many times they may ask you to send in questions prior to. So again, we are all learning. we're all, this is kind of a learning curve, and what I'm saying is an assumption. I just know in my city there is a list when they do have open forum. And I'm not sure how others across the United States would do so. I'm just telling you what I assume.
All right, Lila, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, let me add just a little bit to that. That's good information, Karen, and especially during this time where we aren't having meetings right now. It's really important to think, though, about how to get the information about extension, how to get messages about extension to your local decision makers. And so what you might think about, just as an example, is how is extension right now during this pandemic, how is extension responding and reacting? And make sure that your local decision makers know about that. And the way, you know, the methods that I'd use would be through social media, through email. Lots of local decision makers, county commissioners, and other local decision makers are in fact trying to continue to communicate with their the members of their clientele. And so taking it, or kind of making it a point, if you will, to communicate with them and let them know the kinds of things that are going on in your local area or your county or your state, or at your institution that extension has been involved in, so that they're aware of the kinds of things that are available out there. For many of them right now, especially, things are so crazy that they don't know for sure what's going on. And so it would be very, very important for you to let them know, what are you doing? Are you involved with groups that are trying to help people learn how to grow, vegetables in their yard? Are you involved with putting 4-H curriculum online for young people? Are you involved with, you know, whatever it happens to be, getting information out, sewing masks, or whatever it happens to be? It would be really, really important, I think, for local decision makers to know the kinds of ways that Extension is actively engaged today. So I guess what I'd say is don't back off on this just because we're involved in this, you know, very awkward and scary time. Don't back off on communicating with your local elected officials. Just do it in ways that make sense today. And it seems to me like those ways are social media and email and texting, probably most efficiently at this point. And those kinds of formats require the message to be in a little bit different, you know, perhaps a little bit different form. They might be shorter messages as opposed to longer, you know, whole page kinds of messages, because you know what, they're really busy right now and they're not going to have time to read a lot of stuff right now, but they would have time to read a short message that says, this is what we're doing right now, just wanted you to be aware of it. Just some potential suggestions.
All right. Thank you, Lila. Another question that we've got is, how do you sign on or sign in each morning?
I didn't catch that, Julie. Say that again.
How do you sign on each morning?
I will send out a link that will, just like you signed on to this meeting, and it will take you to the Zoom webinar address that we are assigned for our conference. So be looking for that. And then, as somebody suggested, putting that on the website. I will not put it on the website until Monday morning, but it will be there in case you get knocked off, or in case the message that I send out, you lose it, or, you know, who knows what. So, but it will be available on the JSEP website at jsep.org.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bob. At this time, I don't see any more questions, so we'll go ahead and close with our final slide. And just want to say thank you for participating in today's orientation. I'm sure you've heard it on much of what we're doing in our current climate, and that is in these unprecedented times. We appreciate your patience and your grace, and like I said earlier, you're already leading just by participating in a full-on virtual conference, which is if not the first, one of the first for Extension across the country. So we appreciate your continued excitement about the wonderful content that the PILD conference brings. And, you know, like Extension professionals before us and even after us, we are responding rapidly to current situations, and it may not be the prettiest, but we are meeting our clients' needs. And I just would encourage you to keep an upbeat attitude as we still continue to get to participate in professional development and learn from our speakers and our panel members that we're going to get to hear, and also get the opportunity to learn from each other. So thank you for joining us. Certainly thank you to our PILD conference and Karen for her leadership in this. And we hope that you have a great day. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we will follow up with even more information or even reminders as we get closer to the conference. So we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.